opposing counsel, members of the jury. Growing up, my mother often said, son, there are certain things in life you just don't play with. You don't play with guns. You don't play with love. You don't play with fire. Fire can be very dangerous. It could burn you. It could suffocate you. Fire could even kill you. April 2nd, 2012, Andy Meyer almost lost his life to a fire. Not by the campfire burning in his backyard, but by the fire burning inside his friend, the defendant, Jonah Ryan. Burning with an obsessive love for Selena Meyer, like the untended fire he was, the defendant lost control. Blinded by love, blinded by obsession, the defendant became blinded to reason and common sense, ultimately acting in reckless abandon towards his friend. April 2nd, 2012 was supposed to be a good day. It was. The sky was blue, the sun was out, the kids were out playing. Andy Meyer had planned to have dinner with his wife that night, then a little campfire. Little did he know, the defendant had other plans for him that night. You see, the defendant was in the Gulf Shores, coming back from a beach weekend getaway. Having time to think to himself, the defendant came up with a master plan on how he would get rid of Andy Meyer and have Selena Meyer forever. He approached Mr. Meyer's home in his truck. And as he approached Mr. Meyer's home, you heard about a heated debate. Give it up, Andy! You know what I want. I'm sick of you terrorizing Selena. If you don't let her go, this is what will happen to you. 4 gunshots rang out. Riddled their house, their home, Andy Meyer's sanctuary. A place that Andy Meyer thought was safe until that night. A night that was supposed to be filled with laughter, a campfire, was instantly turned into one of jealousy, rage, envy, and an innocent life almost taken away within the blink of an eye. Why? Some would say jealousy. Jealousy is a combination of emotions, such as anger, resentment, disgust, helplessness. Some of the many things that you saw from the defendant here today. Jealousy can cause an individual to do the most unpredictable things imaginable. Jealousy can cause stealing. Jealousy can cause lying. Sometimes jealousy can cause an individual to think about killing his best friend. But I can't do that. I can't just stand up here and say jealousy. We have to prove that he committed a crime. So us, the prosecution, the people in today's case, have brought up charges of assault by drive-by shooting. Now, in a moment, the Honorable Judge will instruct you on the law. He will take you back to the deliberations room, and he will tell you that in order to find the defendant guilty of assault by drive-by shooting, we must prove beyond and to the exclusion of all reasonable doubt that the defendant is guilty. He will also tell you that beyond a reasonable doubt means that the proposition presented by us must be proven to the extent that no reasonable doubt is left in your minds. Reasonable people, the defendant is in fact guilty. This is the burden that we had today. This is the boulder that Ms. Cutler talked about in opening statements. We met that burden because we embraced that burden here today. The first thing we had to prove, that the defendant intentionally discharged a firearm. You heard from the lieutenant. He told you that he found 4 bullets in the wall. He interviewed the witnesses. The witnesses told him that a gun was fired by Jonah Ryan. He told you that Jonah Ryan pointed the gun at Mr. Meyer's face. He told you that Mr. Meyer was scared. Mr. Meyer didn't know what was going on, and that the defendant said, if you don't get away from Selena, this is what will happen to you. And released 4 bullets. Not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4. If this is not intentional, I don't know what is. Now, the second thing is that the defendant discharged the firearm from a motor vehicle or highway. As we stipulated earlier, this street is a public street. Now, you also heard testimony from Mr. McClintock that he saw the truck that night. You also heard evidence that the gun was fired from Lieutenant Egan. This burden was met. The defendant intentionally used the vehicle to facilitate the assault. You heard from Miss Selena Meyer. She told you that she came around the house, and after the gunshot, she saw the car zooming down the street. He used this car to get home that night. He didn't call anyone. He didn't call 911. He didn't call Selena Meyer. He didn't tell his brother. He didn't tell anyone. He didn't call 911. It wasn't important to him. He used the vehicle to facilitate this assault. That the defendant had a specific intent to use force or violence upon the person or another, Mr. Meyer in this case, and that the defendant had a specific intent to either kill, cause harm to, or frighten another person. You heard Mr. Jonah Ryan today. He told you that he would do anything to be with Selena, that he was in love with Selena since Andy started dating her, that she was special, like that he really wanted to be with her, but he couldn't because that was his best friend's wife. But he loved her. He always loved her. He couldn't stop himself from loving her. You heard that he pointed the gun at him. You heard that he fired the gun, the bullets in this case. Your Honor, both of these are men, members of the jury. We met all our burdens. We met this boulder that Ms. Cutler talked about. Now, in a moment, Ms. Hickman will come before you, and she'll tell you about this boulder once more. She'll tell you about emotions in this case. She's right. It is about emotions. It's about Jonah Ryan's emotions. It's about a monster who lost control. It's about a devil's love obsession with his best friend's wife. Now, the defendant was burning that night. He still is. In a moment, I'm going to need you to tend to that fire. I'm going to need you to put your hard hats on. I'm going to need you to put your firefighter suits on. And I'm going to need you to extinguish that fire once and for all. The only way you know how. The defendant had a motive, the means, and the opportunity to strike. He was desperate. He was hurt. He was burning. Find the defendant guilty.